Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. And if you're new to my channel, hello, my name is Gabby and welcome. If you've never been here before, you have no idea what I do here on my channel. I cover true crime cases, and pretty much all the cases that I cover are a little bit more on the vintage side. They're all basically 20 years or older. So if that's something you might be interested in, maybe go down below, click that subscribe button, and also make sure to turn on the post notifications to be notified every time that I upload. Today's case is one that I've definitely been requested to do a lot, many times, and it is the solved case of Erica Nicole Baker. Have you heard of this case? It's a case where it is solved, but the little girl, her remains are still missing. And those are honestly the solved but no remains cases are some of the most frustrating cases out there. If you watch Danielle Hallen here on YouTube, which if you don't, you should, because she does great work. She has a series on her channel called Solved No Body, which basically is just what I described. The case is by law solved, but we don't know where the remains are. And a lot of the time with these cases, it's the case is solved and the person who has been convicted of the crime, or the people convicted of the crime, it's basically just them not telling authorities or the family or anyone involved what they did with the body and where they disposed of the body or buried it or dumped it. It's just them keeping that secret to themselves. It is just so heartbreaking. Now, with this video, I did get a large portion of my information from a court write-up that is online about the case, which I feel like is very trustworthy information. And I also got a large portion of my information from articles about the case. So basically, I tried to gather up as much information as possible about this case that is online about it, summarize it, and make it as easy as possible to digest. And that's how I went about doing my research for this video. So with all of that being said, let's get right into the case. This is the case of Erica Nicole Baker. Erica Nicole Baker was born on June 22nd of the year 1989 to parents Greg and Melissa "Misty" Baker, and she had three older brothers, Jason, Greg Jr., and Logan. In early 1999, Erica was a beautiful little 9-year-old girl with blonde hair and hazel eyes with her entire life ahead of her. She was a third grader at Indian Riffle Elementary School, and she was described by a supervisor at the elementary school as the friendliest child in the world, a girl who would never pass you without waving hello. Unfortunately, though, like so many times in history, this child's story was tragically cut short at the hands of others. To start off, Erica's story takes place in her hometown of Kettering, Ohio, a suburb of Dayton, Ohio, that is located about 55 miles north of Cincinnati, Ohio. Erica's parents, Greg and Misty, were divorced, but both of them lived in Kettering, not far from each other. The day this story revolves around is Sunday, February 7th of 1999. On this day, Erica spent most of the day with her older brothers at their father's home. According to Greg, Erica was quite upset this day because he had forgot to purchase tickets for the father-daughter dance that was that night. Greg said it really did bum Erica out that they weren't going to this dance, but she got over it as the day went on, and at around 2:30 p.m., Greg dropped Erica and her brothers off at their mother's home that, like I stated before, was in the same town, so it wasn't that far of a distance away. Not long after arriving at her mother's home, Erica helped her aunt take down her waterbed. Erica's aunt and mother shared a home together. After helping her aunt, Erica asked her mother if she could go to her friend's house. This friend's name was Sarah. Erica went to this friend's home, but Sarah wasn't home, so Erica went back to her mother's home after. Erica, at this point, she was just bored and she wanted something to do. So she asked if she could walk her aunt's little Shih Tzu dog named Jamie. At first, Misty told Erica no, because it was raining outside and she didn't want her to catch a cold. Erica, being a kid, she begged, and Misty, she finally gave in. So somewhere between 3:15 p.m. to 3:30 p.m., Erica put on her little pink raincoat, headed out the back door of the home with Jamie, the Shih Tzu, and started making her way towards the Kettering Recreational Center. I just want to give a quick rundown of the area we are talking about. Right here is where the home was. Right here is Kettering Recreational Center. Here is the main pond, which we will discuss soon. Here is the middle school, and down here is the park. As you can tell, it wasn't a super long walk from her mother's home to the recreational center, and we do know for a fact she made it to the area because 2 witnesses, a couple who went to the area to walk their dog, later spoke to authorities and told them that around 3:45 p.m. they saw Erica leaving the location where the pond was, and she was walking in the direction of the track at the middle school nearby. I do also have to mention that Erica did on occasion take little walks by herself, but going out and walking the dog was something she did not really do on the regular. Her dad described it as being something sporadic that she did that. Time started passing and the sun started setting. Erica was still not home from her little walk. Like any loving parent, Misty started to worry. She sent Greg Jr. and Logan to go look for Erica at Erica's friend's house. Erica wasn't there. Misty knew Erica would never stay out past dark. She was hysterical. She knew something had to have happened, and authorities were called to the home immediately. It was actually Erica's grandmother, Pam, who made the call because Misty at the time was far too worked up to phone them. Earlier at the park, Jamie the Shih Tzu was found by the 2 witnesses who saw Erica with the dog earlier at the park. According to reports, Jamie was dragging its blue leash and was soaking wet near the doorway of the middle school. That's where they found her. They looked for the girl that they saw with the dog earlier, but couldn't find her. After finding out that the girl was missing, they contacted police about the encounter earlier. Later on, Jamie the dog was reunited with the family. So, the dog made it home, thankfully, but Erica never did. At 8:10 p.m., an officer was dispatched to the home, and this was the start of a huge missing children search. Tons of officers were called in to search for Erica. They searched by car and by bike, covering the paths that Erica took that day, and also the entire area of the Kettering Recreational Center, the park, the golf course, everywhere they thought that the little girl could be. They truly worked fast on this case, so fast that the word of Erica's disappearance was broadcast on the 11 p.m. local news. It was nighttime, but the entire area of the center was bright with lights looking for her. By midnight, they had the pond draining, and by 1 a.m., they had a helicopter out there searching the area from an aerial view. Also, of course, eventually, soon after, the FBI was brought in to help. So much was being done. Within a week of Erica's disappearance, a command post was set up at the Kettering Recreational Center, and not long after that, a command post was also set up at 2 local shopping centers. Other than that, like in most cases, they have to rule out close family members. So authorities did give Greg and Misty polygraph tests and interviewed them extensively. At the end of it, the 2 were completely ruled out as having any involvement in the disappearance of their daughter. A little over 2 weeks after Erica's disappearance, they even went on Oprah in the attempt to spread the word about the case even more.
Greg and Melissa Baker's 9-year-old daughter has been missing for over 2 weeks.
Everything that could possibly have been done was being done at the very beginning of Erica's disappearance. Other than everything I mentioned before, a hotline was also set up for anyone to call who might have had any information about Erica's whereabouts or what happened to her. This hotline stayed up until 5 years later in 2004. At this time, though, in 1999, the Baker family, Kettering police, the community, everyone was looking for Erica. From reports, the only supposed evidence that was found in this case at the beginning was a Winnie the Pooh sweatshirt that was located on a road in Germantown, Ohio. Germantown, Ohio is about 13 miles southwest of Kettering. This is a weird part to this case, but bloodhounds positively reacted to this Winnie the Pooh sweatshirt. But when authorities brought the sweatshirt to her parents to identify as possibly being Erica's, both stated that the sweatshirt was not their daughter's. They had never seen the sweatshirt before. When you look up a lot of online missing persons posters of Erica, it will include this Winnie the Pooh sweatshirt, but apparently it did not actually belong to her. So this Pooh Bear sweatshirt didn't lead them anywhere, but the search continued, and it went on, and eventually it led authorities to their first suspect, their main suspect, the person who would be eventually convicted in this case, a man named Christian Gabriel. Christian John Gabriel was reached out to by two Kettering detectives on July 14th of the year 1999, about 5 months after Erica's disappearance. He was living near Jeffersonville, Ohio at the time, an area about 40 miles east of Kettering. Christian was asked where he was on February 7th of 1999. He told authorities that on that day, he did recall that he, his girlfriend, Jan Marie Franks, and his best friend, Clifford Butts, had been out stealing from the Myers grocery store in Kettering, Ohio. He was asked if anything happened that day, anything worthy of them knowing about, something possibly involving a missing girl from Kettering. He said, quote, "Something could have happened." That answer alone just irritates me to no end. You ever hear something that just annoys you so much, and you know it happened a long time ago, but it just annoys you? That was the first thing in this case that just bugged me. I just want to sit down with him and be like, what kind of answer was that? You know, something could have happened involving a missing girl from Kettering. I don't know, something. It just Well, authorities asked him what he was driving that day. Christian told them that he had been driving his van, a van that he coincidentally sold on February 23rd of 1999 to a man named Kevin Smith. So, of course, they tracked down Kevin Smith to speak to him and try to get the van. The Dayton Police Department ended up impounding the van and taking it in so they could send it over to a forensics lab for further testing to see if they could obtain any of Erica's DNA from the van, to see if she had ever been inside the van, to see if the group had anything to do, of course, with her disappearance. Testing was done and they found no clues that Erica Baker had been in that van at any time. Authorities would not have any contact with Christian Gabriel until 5 years later in the year 2004. 2004 was really the year that everything in this case started taking off. Okay, so 2004. During this year, authorities were looking over Erica's case again, and they really wanted to question Christian Gabriel further about his possible involvement in her disappearance. Remember, they did not obtain any physical evidence that he had any possible involvement in her case, but they just felt like he wasn't telling the entire truth about that day. Was he possibly holding something back? Was he holding some information back? They would soon find out. In early April of 2004, they reached out to Christian Gabriel again and asked him about the day of February 7th, 1999. Christian told them that he did remember that he lent the van to Kevin Smith that day before he sold it to him later that month. This, though, did not seem like a likely story to police. Police were basically like, okay, this guy, now he just remembers that he lent his vehicle, his only vehicle, to a friend this day. He forgot that until now. Police, they were on to Christian Gabriel. So they decided that they were going to conduct surveillance on him. But this attempt pretty much completely failed. Police were spotted a few times, so Christian definitely knew something was up, and he was laying low, making sure to not do anything that looked suspicious in any way. Police were basically filming him like in the bushes, looking at what he was doing, parked outside, making sure they knew his every move, and Christian was just making sure he looked like, I don't know, an outstanding citizen. He was making sure he didn't do anything to set off their radar. Months and months passed. They still had a feeling he knew something else, but they had to come up with something, some way to get him to talk, to spill the beans on what happened that day. Well, they wouldn't have to work too hard because Christian was arrested in July of 2004 on a charge of possessing some stolen property. Of course he was. He had been arrested by the Clark County Sheriff's Office, which Clark County is a little northeast of Dayton, Ohio. When they arrested him, he begged them to not arrest him because he stated that he was watching his baby at the time, that the baby was inside. So police looked inside the house and there was no baby there. he didn't have his baby with him. So they just arrested him. As you'll be able to tell by the end of this video, this man, Christian Gabriel, he has an issue with lying. While Christian was outside the sheriff's office, he was puffing on a cigarette. Before even entering the building, he spilled the beans. He told authorities he was involved in the disappearance of 9-year-old Erica Baker. He said that he was a passenger in the van that struck her that day. Christian was outside with 2 detectives at the time. The one went inside after he came forward with this information, and the second one left outside with Christian, told him, "I can tell by your demeanor that you're getting something off your chest, that you've had on your chest for a long time. When you go upstairs, you need to tell them what's going on, and then get it out in the open and get it over with." Which I completely agree. I think that was some great advice. If only Christian Gabriel would have listened to that advice in whole and took it to heart and just came forward with the entire truth, what actually happened. They took Christian in for questioning, and this is when he started telling authorities what he says happened that day. Though through the years, this story would change many times. Now, the first story. He first told authorities that he had been a passenger in the van, that it was his van, but his girlfriend Jan Franks had been driving it, and that his friend Clifford and Clifford's girlfriend were also in the van that day. Christian stated that they did go to the Kettering Myers grocery store to steal some stuff, and that afterwards they were driving back to his residence when they all heard a thud. He described it as a thud. He stated that they all got out of the van and realized that they had hit a young girl, aka Erica Baker. They hit Erica Baker. He said that he had been buzzed, meaning drunk, at the time and didn't remember seeing her before the van hit her. He stated Erica was unconscious when they got out of the van. He said they did not know if she was alive or not when they picked up her body, put it in the van, left the dog behind, and drove off. They just took her with them and didn't know if she was just unconscious or dead. They didn't know. They didn't know. That's what he says. According to Christian, they accidentally hit Erica Baker at the intersection of Glengarry Drive and Powhatan Place, which based on the map is right near the middle school and would explain why the dog was found right outside that building. Christian continued his story and said that they didn't know what to do with her body. He said that he himself wanted to bring her to the hospital, but no one else wanted to do that. He said that they then went to his apartment. They smoked crack, then drove Erica's body to Huffman Dam. He said that they thought she was dead at this point and that they just wanted to find an area to bury her. Huffman Dam is about 10 miles north of the Kettering Recreational Center. Authorities went to Huffman Dam the following day after his confession to try to locate where the group buried Erica's remains. Christian claimed he didn't remember exactly where they buried her, and after a long search, they did not locate her body there. They couldn't find her anywhere. Was she actually buried there, or was he telling another lie? We don't know. Erica's family just wanted to know exactly what happened to their daughter. They learned about the new information brought forward by Christian Gabriel. They were in obvious disbelief. They grieved, and over time they started accepting that Erica was most likely deceased, but they wanted to know where her body was located so they could give her a proper burial. Where was she? She had to be somewhere, so where? They hoped Christian Gabriel would finally give them that information. I know my subscribers, I know y'all, I know you like questions. You're probably sitting there thinking right now, there were other people in the van though, right? What happened to them? Well, there's not much information when it comes to Clifford Butts and his girlfriend, but there is a bit of information on Christian's girlfriend, Jan. Now, Jan Marie Franks, she passed away from a drug overdose in the year 2001. But before she died, she did give a confession to her attorney. After Jan died, her attorney actually refused to tell what Jan confessed to her. Because of this, her attorney actually went to jail for some time for contempt, basically meaning her keeping this information was detrimental to the court's ability to administer proper justice. So Jan had died from a drug overdose about 2 years after this happened with Erica Baker. Like I said, her attorney had served some time in jail and was released from jail and did finally give up the information and provide a full testimony to the grand jury. But unfortunately, we do not know what she stated in her testimony because grand jury testimonies are kept completely private between the grand jury and the individuals giving the testimony. So basically, still to this day, we the public, we do not know what Jan told her attorney before she died. And to me, it's so crazy that Jan gave this full confession to her attorney. It's almost like, did she know that she was spiraling down really bad and that her addiction was so severe that she was going to succumb to the addiction one day and possibly die from it, and she just wanted to go to her attorney and get it all off her chest? It really makes you wonder because we don't know. But anyways, back to the main person, Christian Gabriel, though. Kettering police would talk to Christian a few more times near the end of 2004. And this is when his story started changing a little bit here and there. The first time when they spoke to him, he told them, of course, that he was just a passenger in the van. Now, this time, he says that he was actually the driver of the van the day that they hit Erica. This time, he said that he was the driver of the van and that it was his girlfriend Jan who showed him which way to get to Huffman Dam so they could bury Erica's body. He again led them to the area and they started looking for her remains again, and they still again did not locate anything. Then near the very end of December of 2004, police spoke to him and he again changed his story a little bit more. This time he claimed that they buried her remains at Caesar's Creek, a completely different area than Huffman Dam. So of course they went to Caesar's Creek with him, searched and again they found nothing. They didn't know what to do with Christian at this point because he kept leading them to areas where they just kept finding nothing, and it was becoming so insanely frustrating for them. Every single time that he took them to an area, they didn't find anything. One, did he really forget exactly where they buried her? Or two, was he stringing them along? I personally, I gotta go with number two, but that's just me. This section of time was just a weird time in this case. During these months when Christian admitted to his involvement in Erica's case and they were still trying to figure out how to take on this case, how to take it to court and hoping to maybe find Erica's remains in the process, there was just a lot of back and forth with him. A lot of interviewing him and him sometimes being cooperative and sometimes acting like police were messing him over and ruining his life. I mean, this was a man who literally was driving the vehicle that hit a young girl, ending her life, saying that they were responsible for her death and that they buried her some location, and he's not giving the full information, and yet they're ruining his life. Mind-blowing. I feel bad for a lot of people in this case, but Christian Gabriel, I don't feel bad for you. On February 4th of the year 2005, though, Christian Gabriel was indicted for tampering with evidence and gross abuse of a corpse. Prosecutors felt like they really didn't have the evidence to back up any sort of charge of homicide, even vehicular, so they kept it to trying to get him for those two lesser charges, which, although a less charge, it was especially going to be hard to convict him on gross abuse of a corpse without a corpse. I mean, and also tampering with evidence because, again, they really had none. It was just a very confusing trial. It was a very confusing case to take on. Christian pleaded not guilty, surprising, and his attorney basically stated in court that he had only confessed because police pushed him to confess, and jurors had to sit and listen to 3 main accounts Christian had of what happened that day. Like I said, very confusing. The first account being he was a passenger in the car. The second account was he was actually driving the car, and the third account was he actually had nothing to do with Erica's disappearance at all. Jurors had to sit through this. During the trial, there was also a lot more brought up by Christian's attorney. I'm not going over it in this video because it didn't stand up in court. But if you want to read more, links to my sources will be in the description of this video. Now in court, when anyone in Erica's family got up on the stand, they answered any questions and were up there basically just begging Christian to tell them exactly where Erica's body is. And it's so devastating to watch.
So please, Mr. Gabriel, tell us where our beloved Erica is buried.
When it comes to Christian and him not exactly remembering where they took Erica's body that day to bury it, his excuse, which he has a few, but his main one is that the day when they hit Erica and buried her body, that he was so drunk and so high, that they were all so drunk and so high that it just dulled his memory and he can't remember fully what happened and where the location was. He can't remember for the life of him where they buried a 9-year-old girl. In the end though, Christian Gabriel was convicted of tampering with evidence and gross abuse of a corpse and was given a 6-year prison sentence by the judge. He was literally dragged away from the courtroom cursing up a storm. He was furious. As we know, his girlfriend Jan was deceased. But when it comes to his friend Clifford and his girlfriend, nothing happened to them. Which, if we're being honest here, I am so surprised that nothing happened to Clifford Butts and his girlfriend. But I guess they figured with lack of evidence that they were even lucky to get Christian. I do have to mention also that Erica's family has stated that when it comes to that entire group of people, that they knew none of them. They had no relation to any of them in any way. They did not know who any of them were before this happened. Right now it's 2021. Christian went away to prison in 2005, plus 6 years that he was there. That would have been 2011. 2011 was 10 years ago. So Christian has been free for a decade now. So Christian has been out for 10 years now, and from my research, after everything happened, he decided to move to Florida and I guess lay low, but still to this day, he is the only person that has ever been convicted in this case. When he was released from prison though, he wasn't free immediately. He was actually sent over to the Mercer County Sheriff's Office for an old domestic violence charge. What a great guy. But in the end, he was finally released from there on June 23rd of 2011. Now, the person who picked Christian up that day from jail might actually surprise you. It was Erica's grandmother, Pam. This news, it actually took the entire family by surprise that she was the one who picked him up after his release. Why would she do that? Well, Pam claimed that she had been corresponding with Christian Gabriel while he was behind bars and really thought that once he got out that she would be able to just sit with him and speak to him and get him to give up more information finally. I guess she figured that if he saw the pain directly from a grieving family member, that it might lead them to where Erica's remains are located. But Christian basically said, again, he doesn't remember anything else, and that was that. And they're still searching for her remains to this day. This case is always in the back of our family's minds, and not just them, but this is a huge case out of Ohio. Erica's disappearance affected Kettering greatly, and pretty much everyone in that area has heard of her case. Right now, we're going to get into a huge theory in this case. Robert Green, who is a retired Kettering police sergeant and worked on Erica's case for about 2 decades, is still very involved in her case and still helps in any way that he can. Now, according to him, and many others also believe this too, that Erica didn't die because of a freak accident. That possibly she was struck by the van, but after she was struck, she was alive, and then she was taken by them and killed later on. There are some people that believe that that is why the location of her body has never been found. That maybe if her remains are found, that they would find out after testing the remains that her cause of death was not being struck by a van. That maybe she was injured by the van or knocked unconscious by the hit, and then something else happened because they didn't know what to do with her and didn't want to get in trouble with the law. That is just a theory in this case, but it is one that to a lot of people, it makes sense. Based on my research, there have been recent searches done for Erica's remains. The Kettering police teamed up this year with EquiSearch Midwest. EquiSearch Midwest is a recovery group that is a branch of the Texas EquiSearch that started in 2012. They are a nonprofit, volunteer-based organization, and their overall goal is basically to just locate missing people.
EquiSearch Midwest will search near Huffman Dam on the Mad River. It's been checked in the past, but new technology could uncover what was previously missed.
They can supply searches that are smaller with like 5 to 10 people helping, or larger groups with hundreds and hundreds of people. And they'll bring in people on horseback and ATV. I mean, they do great work. If you are a local to the Kettering area, or you are somebody that keeps up with this case, you probably do remember hearing that they were doing another huge search this year. And a lot of people had their fingers crossed they were gonna find something, but I couldn't find any information on whether they found anything or not. It doesn't look like they did. EquiSearch Midwest, they worked closely with authorities in Kettering, and they went to all the areas where Erica was that day before she vanished, and of course searched the main areas where Christian Gabriel stated she was buried. The director of Texas EquiSearch Midwest did say that they weren't really looking for her full remains when they were searching. They were searching mostly for any fragments of remains, from clothing to bones. They were hoping to just find something, anything at all, to help lead them in the right direction to find as much of her remains as possible so they could finally put her case to rest and give her a proper burial, which is what her family wants above anything else. They searched the main areas that Erica was that day, and especially focused on Huffman Dam. There were so many people out there all these years later looking for her. They had ground penetrating radar and even had drones that go up and can determine if an area of the ground has been disturbed in any way. I mean, some real high-tech stuff that I don't even know how half of it works. But from my knowledge, they didn't find anything. Nothing. I mean, is Christian Gabriel lying about Huffman Dam? Is he lying about Caesar's Creek? He's lied so many times before, we don't know. They have received other tips though in the past. Police did receive a tip in 2013 that Erica's remains may have been in a pond at a trailer park where Christian and Jan were said to have lived at the time of Erica's disappearance. They ended up strangely finding in this pond 3 vehicles and a boat in the water, but found nothing of any connection to Erica. This case has just hit dead end after dead end, even after a conviction and full prison term being served. Still to this day, they just can't get a complete, truthful story out of him. Erica Nicole Baker, her remains still to this day are missing. Erica Baker was 9 years old at the time of her disappearance. She was last seen wearing light blue denim pants, white sneakers with purple inserts, and her little pink raincoat. She had blonde hair and hazel eyes. She stood at about 3 feet 10 inches tall and weighed about 65 pounds. Some physical characteristics of hers were that she had a scar on the inner arch of one of her feet. She had a small oval-shaped tan-colored birthmark on one of her hips, and her teeth were a little crooked in the very front. If you have any information regarding Erica's case, you are urged to contact the Kettering Police Department at 937-296-2555. Remember that you can stay anonymous. One question that I get a lot from subscribers is, how is it to cover a case of a child compared to the case of an adult? It is different. Anybody who covers these cases and has to look into them in any way, whether you are a journalist or somebody who has a podcast or a YouTuber, anything, if you're somebody that's just researching into the case, it is different. It does hit you in a different way. Although every single case is heartbreaking in its own way. When it comes to a child, they did not get the chance to do many of the things that somebody who may have been a little bit older was able to do and was able to achieve. I am not a parent myself, but I have talked directly to parents of victims before, and they all say very similar things. And one of those things is that when they had their child, or when they were pregnant with their child, or when their girlfriend or wife was pregnant with their child, that they were just so happy to bring this little soul into the world, to have this baby, to watch this baby grow into a toddler, into a child, into an adult, and start their own family. And that when you have this little baby in your hands that you are so happy to have, that you never think for a second, even though you're a parent and you worry about things, that you never think that you're going to be one of the parents who has to go through losing that child when they are a young age. And that when it does happen, your entire life pretty much stops. And the life that you thought you were going to live does a complete 180. The chances of anyone else in this case who was involved in any way being convicted are pretty much slim to none, but her family just wants her remains, and I hope that whatever way it is, whatever way leads them to her remains, I hope that they are able to eventually give her a proper burial. With all that being said, thank you to my viewers who took a little bit of time out of their day to watch this video and learn about Erica's case, because it's one that I had to highlight on my channel. And if you have any thoughts about this case, any theories, put those down below in the comments. And also, please put some love down in the comments as well for the Baker family, because they have been through hell. And I will leave you with that. I will see you all in my next one.